Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. So this is part 2 of my GreyHack series. So today we're going to basically create a program, or teach you how to program by creating a Wi-Fi hacking tool that would like hack the whole Wi-Fi in one command instead of like multiple commands. So basically we're just going to automate the task that we have done in the first part, essentially. So let's actually open up our code editor. And let's see, and open up our manual. Let's see what we're gonna need here, essentially. So we got scripting, visual programs, terminal. Let's go to terminal programs. Let's go to network commands. And the first command that we have ran is airmon. Now this is how airmon works. If you go to the source code, you can find that it is here saying cryptools.airmon option device. So here it's calling a function, and the function is basically just a bunch of code bundled together in one name. So here we just call or use that code that someone else have wrote under the name of airmon. We use it here essentially. In this case, airmon is actually using the option that it got from the user, which is usually land 0, and it's using the device that is also got from the user as a parameter to the command. But we're not going to do that. We're going to actually do that automatically ourselves. So let's see how we can do this. Alright, so the first thing first is that airmon is inside of a library called cryptools, which is this guy. So this guy is basically include library /lib/crypto.so. So let's just copy this code, or you could just write it, and yeah. So here we imported the library cryptools, and here we check if this library is there or not, because like it could be inside of another computer, like hacked another computer or so on. And if you're inside of that computer and it doesn't contain crypto in like your own computer, which does, then you're gonna need to, let's say for example, copy this crypto library or download it from the internet to this new computer essentially. And if you don't actually handle the error here, the user won't know what exactly is wrong, right? Unless if you handle it yourself and you tell him what's wrong. In this case, we're telling him that there was an error missing crypto library, and then the user would go ahead and fix it. Alright, next up, the actual airmon program checks for the parameters it's gonna get from the user. We're not going to do this part for now, because it's just too much for this video for learning purposes. Now what we're going to need next. So now that we imported that cryptools, now we could actually do this. I can just copy this. If not output, then hold on, if type output, then exit. So let's just copy this whole thing right here. Alright, so we got cryptools.airmon option device. Now the thing is here, it's not really option. Let's check out the manual here. Well, where's our manual? Let's check out this. Let's just say airmon, okay? So here we go, crypto.airmon, and it basically takes two things. It takes a string option and a string device, which is actually correct, yeah. So enables or disable the monitor mode of a network device. The option parameter can only be start or stop. Let's just actually inline this variable or this parameter and say start, because we want to start the monitor mode in the device. Now the problem is the device. Now airmon actually takes the device from the user, but we're just going to take the first device ourselves. So how are we going to do that? Well, first of all, we need the computer, right? So let's grab the computer object here. So computer, well, let's just copy it actually. Copy, paste. Computer equal get shell the host computer. Now we could have various shells. In fact, get shell actually accepts two parameters. It accepts the username and the password, because like in every computer you could have multiple users and so on. And here you could actually log in into that user and like run commands there. But in our case, we don't need them. We could just do it like this with no parameters, and it would infer that it's the active user you're talking about, right? And in GreyScript, at least, if you have no parameters, then you could just omit these parentheses and you're good. But this is actually a function basically. Now let's check out the documentation about the computer object. So computer, host computer, and it returns the computer associated with this shell. Well, let's see. If we go to scripting here and we go to the computer object, we could see all the functions inside of the computer object. And one of the functions is called Wi-Fi networks. Now this Wi-Fi networks function takes one parameter, net device of type string. A string is basically these things in quotation marks, right? And it basically says to the compiler that you shouldn't care about what's going here, just take it literally. Don't try to understand it. And like, let's say for example, exit and include lib, it actually understands that this is supposed to be exit and this is supposed to include this library. But these actually in quotation marks, they're just data. They don't run them, right? They just pass them as it is into the exit function or into the include lib and so on. But yeah, by the way, like we have here this code in like regular language, like in a scripting language called GreyHack, kind of like English, Arabic and so on, but this is in GreyHack language, right? So, and then after we're done, we just build our code and like convert it into ones and zeros into a program, a compiled program, right? And the compiler actually does that pretty much. It takes this source code right here and turns it into binary that the computer could understand, into zeros and ones that the computer can understand essentially, and of course execute. Cool. So now let's actually use this command, this function, sorry. So Wi-Fi network is equal to Wi-Fi networks. Well, let's use actually the computer first, computer, because this function is inside of computer. So computer.Wi-Fi networks, and then we give it the device we want. Well, actually before that, we need to get the devices though. Before like Wi-Fi networks, we need the Wi-Fi devices. So let's get that first. So device is equal to computer.network devices. And then you actually give it nothing, no parameters as you can see, and it returns a string with the list of network device available on the computer. Now this is basically a list inside of a string, and in fact let me show you what it is. Let's print device here, and let me show you what it is. And let's just compile this, save, replace, and let's go to the command line here. Let's run my program. And there we go. So this is the first thing that it actually did, right? So LAN 0, GD F333 and false. So with the list of network devices available on this computer. All right, so let's get the first one, how we could do it. Well, first of all, we have to actually take this string, this text, and split it by spaces, right? And then take the first element. So how we could do that? Well, we could say dot split by space. Then we're going to take the first element from that list, and in programming we start indexing by 0, not 1. So the first item or the first element is actually 0, the second is 1, and the third is 2, and so on. So let's go with 0 because we want to take the first parameter here, which is going to be the name of the device, which is great. Okay, cool. So now let's actually run this, save, place. And there you go. Right now we only got LAN 0, which is pretty cool. Now we could actually use that device perfectly. So now airmon start device, and if we don't find that device, we're gonna basically exit and with device not found. But the thing is, since we programmatically get the device from the ones given by the computer itself, we're pretty much like 100% guaranteed the device will be there. Like the actual other program needed this because like it's taking the device name from the user, which could be wrong, could be right, but here it would always be right. So we don't actually need the error check in here, and we don't need the variable either because we're not doing any error checking, which is great. So right now we got the device in monitor mode. Great. Next we're gonna need is to grab a Wi-Fi network, just select a Wi-Fi network. So how we could do that? Well, we're going to use the second outer function, right? So we're going to say Wi-Fi network. And in fact, by the way, we don't need to airmon directly yet. So let's just keep that code right there. So Wi-Fi network is equal to computer.get, well, actually the Wi-Fi networks. And then we give it one parameter net device, which we already have here. Now it returns a list of the Wi-Fi networks that are available. and then we can go through all of them essentially. Alright, let's actually print them. Let's print the Wi-Fi network. And by the way, after we're done with this airmon, after we're done with the device that we ended the hacking process, we're just gonna end the monitor mode. Now let's just save. Let's compile this, build, save, replace. Let's actually run this. As you can see, we got a list, and this list basically contains, every part of this list contains one Wi-Fi network, as the first parameter, or the first thing, is like the BSSID of the network, and then the power, and then the name, the SSID essentially. So how are we gonna get this? So we basically need to parse this string into data that we could actually work with, instead of this whole data in one place, in one string. So how we could do this? Well, we got to go through all the Wi-Fi networks here. So for Wi-Fi network, in Wi-Fi networks, then what we're going to do basically is, let's just, for example, print Wi-Fi network for now. Let's run. Well, I need to add end if. As you can see here, compiler error 4 without matching end 4, line 12. So it basically told me that I didn't have an end 4 here. I forgot to do it. So let's add it, and let's try to compile now, and it works. Replace. Now let's do my program here. And as you can see right now, I printed every single network in its own line. Now what we want is to split these networks by spaces, and then put them in an object, right? So how we could do this? Well, first of all, we're gonna create a result array that we're gonna put the results in. Cool. Now what we're gonna do basically is split the Wi-Fi networks by space. So Wi-Fi networks.split by space. I just called it S. I don't really know any other descriptive name for now. So split by space. And then let's actually print S so we can see what's going on here real quick. Save, replace. Oh, key not found, split not found in map. Well, sorry, not Wi-Fi networks. We gotta use this Wi-Fi network here. And let's save, replace. And there you go. Right now, instead of printing like a whole string, right now we have a list of multiple strings, right? So what we gotta do, first of all, so the BSSID is fine. We could just take it as it is. The SSID is same thing. But the power is kind of wrong, right? So we gotta first of all remove this character, right? And then turn it into a number instead of a string, instead of text. So how we could do this? Well, we gotta first of all say result.push. Result.push. And we're gonna make like a dictionary here, and we're gonna start with the BSSID, which is basically gonna be Wi-Fi network 0, which is like the first argument in that list, and then we're gonna need the power PWR, which is basically Wi-Fi network 1, but we're gonna remove. Let's actually just make it outside using a variable here, so just for readability's sake. So s1 dot remove, and we're gonna remove this guy, and then we're gonna convert this into a value by saying dot val here, to a number essentially instead of a string, right? Great. Now next thing is SSID is basically Wi-Fi network 1. Well, actually 2. Well, not Wi-Fi network, S. Let's go with S here. Or in fact, instead of Wi-Fi network, we could just say like, we could just replace that, right? And then we could actually reuse this variable right here. Right. So that's cool. So now let's actually print this result. Let's see. Save, replace. Let's try the program again. Undefined identifier SSID is unknown in this context. in line 11 here. Oh yeah, this needs to be a string. That's why, because it tried to actually understand what an SSID is, and it told me here that SSID is unknown. It doesn't know what is SSID, so I had to tell it, don't care about this, just do it. Okay, so that's cool. That's pretty sick. All right, let's actually compile this. And there you go. Right now we're actually printing the whole list, and every item on that list is actually a dictionary, where the BSSID is this, the power is this 24, and it's actually a number, not a string, as you can see, and the SSID is and so on, right? Whatever that is. Anyways, so great. Right now what we want is to select the Wi-Fi with the best power, with the best signal. Okay, so how we could do that? Well, we could actually sort this result here. How are we going to sort this result? So result.sort, and we're going to sort, and because inside of these items are actually like dictionaries, we could tell it with which item we want to sort. We want to sort with PWR, power. But the thing is, the default is ascending order, which means it's going to start with the least good Wi-Fi, so we don't want that. So in fact, let's just see what's going to happen here. Let's just do it. First of all, let's print result after sorting. And right now the powers are probably random, so like here 24, here 43, and then here 79. Let's actually see what we get now. And right now we get 24 first, then 27, then 73. So it goes from the least to the most. Now if you want to make it the other way, then I guess we could add another parameter, say 0, or I guess we could maybe say false. Yeah, let's see. Save, replace, and there you go. Right now it actually starts in descending order instead of ascending order. So 79, then 73, then 43, 27, then 24, which is pretty sick. So now we could actually get the best Wi-Fi network here. We could call it target, for example, which is result 0, the first one in the list. And there we go. So now we got our target. So like if we just print target here, it's going to tell us exactly save, replace my program. And then as you can see, it printed the target. The SSID is in TE, and it is actually indeed the best one here. Now that we got the target, we could actually start airmoning. Airmoning. Okay, so let's go back to terminal programs, network commands. Well, after airmon, what we want to do is to airplay. So it's inside cryptools, of course. So the airplay. In fact, let's search for the function, and in fact it's already shown it to me here. So it needs the BSSID, the SSID, and the maxAcks. So let's go ahead and say airplay BSSID. We're gonna go with target.bssid, because this is a dictionary. We could actually access these. Now we're gonna take the target SSID, so target SSID, and then the maxAcks. Now the maxAcks, we could just say 7000, but if like the best Wi-Fi doesn't have a great signal, then this may fail. So instead what we're gonna do, we're gonna keep this number to the user actually, because we don't have a great algorithm to define this automatically. Or you could just hard code it to whatever number or whatever. Anyways, let's just do that for learning purposes. So maxAcks, if you do -1, it's just going to go forever until you press Ctrl+C. So now we need to get the input from the user. Let's see how we could get the input. So as you can see, user input, general.user input. How are we going to do this? So it needs the prompt message, the password mode, and any key. And by default, they're false, false, and nothing. All right, let's see what we got here. So maxAcks is basically going to be, so after we print the target, we're going to get the maxAcks from the user. So user input. So anything inside of general, you could just call it directly. You don't need to say general. So user input, and then the prompt message, maxAcks. And there we go. So yeah, and now after AirPlay, we're gonna get our, what is it called, our packets in a file.cap. Next up, we need to use aircrack. So how are we gonna use aircrack? Let's see the function there. So crypto.aircrack, and here it needs string file path. So let's actually go ahead and do this. So cryptools, well, actually before we end the airmon, let's do it here. So cryptools.aircrack, and as you can see, it's telling me here string path to file. Now you would actually say file.cap, but it wouldn't work because it's expecting an absolute path for some reason. So we actually gotta use current path plus file.cap. Well, don't forget the slash, because we're gonna take the current path and then basically concatenate it with this. So if, let's say, current path is, let's say, /bin or /home or whichever, then it's gonna become /home / file.cap. Essentially, that's exactly what we're doing here. Okay, cool. Now aircrack would actually give us the password. Now what we're gonna do next is actually connect automatically using this password. So how we could do this? Well, let's check out for connect Wi-Fi, and there you go, connect Wi-Fi. We need the net device, the BSsid, the SSID, and the password. So let's go ahead and do this. So after we end the airmon, because like airmon is only actually needed for AirPlay, really. So we could actually end it after AirPlay and before that. So that's cool. Now here what we could basically do is say computer.connect Wi-Fi. And here we give it the net device, which is basically called device. And then we need the BSsid. So target.bssid and target.essid. And then we give it the password finally. And there we go. And we could even print the password if you want. So print password is password. So as you can see here, password here is actually a variable because it's not inside. It's gonna, like, the compiler would actually understand that you're talking about this variable and this thing right here, the result of this function. But here, since we put it in the quotation marks, it doesn't care. It's just gonna put it to the user right as it is, like literally, essentially. So now let's actually compile this and see. So let's just clear this and let's run. Now it needs to, so basically it selected this as the best Wi-Fi network, which have all of these. So it's asking me for ACKs. Now from this power, I'm gonna give it some ACK. Well, let's just go with 7,000. And we have a problem here. Invalid arguments line 20 in AirPlay. Invalid arguments because user input actually gives us a string, not a number, and this requires a number for the max ACKs. So we're gonna convert it into a number. So we're gonna use .val here. Hit save, replace, and my program. Now max ACK is 7,000. And as you can see, we always make this errors. We're human after all. Boom. Now let's start the beacon frame. As you can see, it's gonna go until it is done. Okay, it's about to hit 7,000, and there we go, it's done. It told me what is the password, and it automatically connected to the Wi-Fi. Perfect, we have done it. Now last thing that we could do, just for the sake of completeness, is that the AirPlay command leaves a file called file.cap. We could also remove that when we're done with it. Like after the aircrack command, we don't need that file anymore. So let's see how we could remove it. So remove, and there's nothing like that. Let's check out file. There we go. So file, so computer, so file is get shell host computer that we already got here. So computer.File, and then you give it the path essentially /etc. All right, so let's actually do this. How are we gonna do this? Let's see. So computer.File, then we're gonna say current path. Well, actually, I guess maybe it accepts relative. So if it does accept relative, well, honestly, you know what? Let's just say file or cap file path, I guess. cap file, or let's just say cap file honestly, and then actually open this whole file, computer.File, current path, and like that. Let's see what the object file have. If we go to scripting and then look for file here, and there we go. I think we could get the path here. Path. There we go. Cool. Pretty sick. So if it did actually accept relative path, that we don't need this, so that's great. And now here, instead of this, we're gonna say cap file dot, and we need the path here. Yeah, we could say dot path. And there we go. Now it does actually get some parameters here, but we don't need them for now. Now after that, we could just say cap file remove, because it is part here. So like if you look for remove, oh well, actually it's called delete, I think. Yeah, delete apparently. So let's go with delete here, and there you go. So this should work. Well, let's remove this slash, otherwise it would interpret it as a like absolute path, which we don't want. Now let's actually do save, replace, and let's do it again. And there we go. It's done. Now if we say ls, and as you can see, we don't have that file anymore. It's automatically removed, and we also made sure that airmon is end. So like airmon. Well, actually not end, stop probably there. But I'm not sure. It seems to work anyways, I guess. Let me check. Start or stop, yeah. I'm not sure how it worked, but yeah. So that was it basically for this video. There is some few things like you could handle some errors from such functions, but you could check the documentation yourself. I'm gonna do like every other teacher and tell you that it's you know, homework essentially to do it yourself at home. Pretty much. So that's guys it. So 28 lines of code. It would go ahead and do everything you need. It would like select the best Wi-Fi network and then grab the first device, the Wi-Fi card essentially, and then make it into monitor mode, AirPlay, and then airmon and stop, and so on. It would do everything for you. So that was it guys for this video, and see you later. Goodbye everybody.